Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Counterpoint podcast. My name is Maurice Klena, and I'm a research analyst here at Counterpoint. I'll be your host today instead of Ritesh. You might actually have heard of me on some previous podcasts on the OnePlus 8 launch, or the podcast I did on the global smart home market with Ritesh. If you haven't, please go and check them out. In this episode, we'll be speaking with my colleague Avilash Kumar, who just finished a report on the growth of the global online music streaming market. Hi, Avilash. How's it going?
Hi Maurice, I'm good. How are you?
Great. So let's get into it. So the online streaming market has become such a hot topic recently, I think, given how we're all staying at home due to COVID-19 and we're basically consuming more digital media right now. But let's go back to the report and look at 2019. What do you think contributed to the growth in online music streaming subscriptions in 2019?
Yeah, good question, Maurice. So the market performed really well in 2019. We can say that the music streaming has entered the golden era. The market grew 32% YOY. There were few drivers which led to the market growing 32%. Some of them are podcasts. Music streaming players have started focusing a lot on the podcast service. Exclusive content and the podcast are attracting users to come to the platform to pay for the service. And yes, this is one of the prime reasons that the music streaming has grown in 2019. Music streaming is recognized as an opportunity by tech giants like Apple and Amazon. Apple is focusing a lot on service revenue, and Apple Music is one of the prime product for Apple to monetize on the same thing. They are focusing a lot on their features, product, and as well as the curated playlist thing. And yes, players like Spotify have entered the emerging markets like India, where they're getting a lot of traction. They're getting a lot of users due to cheaper data available in the countries. And yes, these are the factors which led to the growth of music streaming subscriptions in 2019.
Cool. That's actually really interesting in terms of this growth. Can you dive a little further and tell me about the growth of paid subscriptions compared to the growth of total users?
Yeah, so we in our research have come up with a very interesting finding when it comes to the paid subscriptions compared to the MAUs. Paid subscriptions grew 32% YOY in 2019 compared to 23% growth of free MAUs. So this is something which is very interesting, and this gives an idea that people are actually interested in paying for service like music streaming. Earlier in 2017, 2018, people were a bit hesitant to pay for streaming services. So they used to either rely on the free services or the telco bundles provided by the operators, say AT&T in America, Airtel in India. So now the behavior has changed a bit. People are ready to pay for the services. I mean, this is not totally user driven. Streaming platforms are strategizing their moves to gain subscriber base. So yeah.
Actually, tell me more about these strategies to gain subscribers. I know you mentioned podcasts, but can you shed a little bit more light on what some of the big players are doing?
So actually, as I said, that the shift towards the paid subscription is not totally user driven. This is driven more or less from the music streaming part. Music streamers follow a two-step approach. So what they do is that they are running some excellent advertising campaigns uh, by offering some good services and good offers to the users. That users are downloading the apps on their mobile phones, on their PCs, and yes, once they are registered on the platform, these music streaming platforms are providing good offers. Like for students, Spotify is giving student plan. For a family person, they are giving Spotify family plan and something like that. Also, when these companies are coming to emerging markets, they are lowering the subscription price to so low that yeah, it hardly matters for people to subscribe for these services. So yeah, this is the approach which the music streaming platforms are uh, using to get the user on board and pay for the service.
That's great. I think having different approaches and different strategies for different regions or different customer segments is really important for these music streaming platforms to gain more subscribers. But now tell me then, in terms of market share, What do you think is a different market share for the top music streaming platforms right now?
Yeah. So as of now, Spotify leads the chart. It has around 35% market share in paid subscriptions. This is closely followed by Apple Music with 19% share. Amazon Music follows it with around 14% share, and then Tencent Music, and then YouTube Music, and then the other players. So the interesting thing is that despite Apple Music being at 19%, they are like really serious about their music streaming. So like with the recent news which I talk about, they've expanded to 52 new countries. If on an average they add 1 million users from each countries, I'm sure they are able to get to figure near Spotify, and their market share is going to increase drastically in 2020.
That makes complete sense, I think. And tell me a little bit more about some other growth expectations you have for the end of 2020 for the industry.
Yeah, so the market for music streaming looks really very promising for the year 2020. As I already said, that we are in the golden era for music streaming. The market grew 29% in 2018 and then 32% in 2019. So yeah, people have started to pay for the service. They have not only in the developed markets but in the emerging markets, they have accepted that they are ready to pay for the service. So yeah, we think that the market is not at all saturated and will grow uh, for at least a couple of years more. And we believe that the market to reach 450 million subscriptions by end of 2020, and the growth is to be driven by fastest by the emerging markets. And yes, the developed markets will also continue to grow at a good pace.
So 450 million subscribers by the end of 2020. That's quite a lot. Do you think that companies are looking to push more exclusive content on their platforms in order to, get that growth, or how do you think that'll work out?
A very interesting question. As I said that a podcast has been one of the main reasons why the music streaming grew 32% YOY in 2019. So yeah, the music streaming players like Ghana in India, Spotify globally, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, there are different players. They are now focusing on originals and exclusive content to gain traction from the user's point of view. If we talk about 2019, Spotify acquired Paracast, Gimlet, Anchor, some of the podcast making companies, so that they can offer a lot of podcasts to their listeners. Similarly, if we talk about Ghana, they launched Ghana Originals, one of a kind of service which provides unique songs on their own platform exclusively. So yeah, in order to differentiate themselves, they are focusing a lot on exclusive content. What happens is people listen to music when they travel. People cannot see the screens. So with podcast coming into picture, while traveling, they get an experience to listen to stories while traveling. Also, it works as a bedtime stories for people. So yeah, podcast is going to be the next big thing in 2020. Therefore, the companies are focusing on this parameter particularly.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to having more podcasts. It's one of the things I use to fall asleep at night. But I wanted to go back to the comment you made about Apple Music now, as it's expanding into several countries, and how they're really not only they're going away from just being a platform to be used on your smartphone, but now to be included onto web browsers as well. Now, what do you think about this move, and what does this mean for Apple Music going forward?
Yeah, I mean, both the moves of Apple Music are brilliant move, I must say. This will give them visibility as well as traction. Apple Music will now be present in 167 countries compared to just 79 countries of Spotify. So yeah, this will give them a boost in the market share of subscriptions. Also, wonderful timing, I must say, that they have made their platform now works on web browsers as well. People are working from home, people are working from their laptops, PCs. So now they can just simply listen to Apple Music from their web browsers. And yes, this will give them a very excellent monetizing opportunity and acceptability to the Apple Music. Earlier they were restrained to only Apple devices, then they came on Android devices, and now with the web platform move, I think Apple Music is going to shine again.
Yeah, thanks, Avilash. I think that makes a lot of sense for Apple Music. And since you mentioned COVID-19, I wanted to kind of briefly touch on this as well, since it's impacted a lot of businesses and different business models. Can you speak a little bit more about how it has impacted the OTT or over-the-top media service industry?
Wonderful question. Talking about the OTT industry, the market is impacted in multiple ways. Let me talk about the video OTT market. Netflix gained 15 million subscribers amidst COVID-19. People are staying at home. So, yeah, they are continuously tuned to Netflix and watching amazing newly launched series like Money Heist, etc. Also, during the peak in Italy, the traction of news and radio grew because people were continuously tuned to these to know the recent updates. The same is the trend now in America. The situation is serious, so people are more tuned to the news and radios, and therefore the traction of radios and news channels are up. However, when I talk about music streaming services, song part of the music streaming services suffered a bit because in these times of sufferings, people are not listening to songs that much. Some of the good artists, famous artists, their listening hours dropped. But at the same time, the podcast streaming grew. And in the podcast also, the news genre grew the most. Once these all things normalize, people will continue to work from home for a couple of months. So in that time, music streaming will again take an uptick.
That's great. And actually, for my final question, what do you think we can expect from streaming platforms in the future?
Yeah. So music streaming holds a lot of potential for the future. The market is not at all saturated. Every tech giant is serious about this segment. So the exclusive content thing particularly, I think it is going to be the next big thing in music industry, in the audio OTT industry. So we are going to see a lot of exclusive content in the year 2020. The music streaming platforms will try to differentiate themselves with the other using different features. We saw Apple coming with dark mode, curated playlist option to differentiate itself. Also, talking about the marketing, uh, each and every player will adopt to the regional marketing approach where they will try to gain traction from the audience. Like when Spotify launched in India, they collaborated with Bollywood actors and made advertisements to gain local audience. Of course, in the emerging markets, discounts will be given to attract the premium subscriptions. And yes, like Apple Music is $10 in US and it's like $2 in India. So yeah, these kind of discounts will be given in the emerging markets so that people get familiar, people are used to using music streaming and they get habituated to it. So yeah, these are something which we can expect from music streaming platforms in 2020.
Those are some really good insights, Avilash. And I know we've covered a lot on this podcast from music streaming industry and the different market shares, and even going into some future expectations for different platforms and the OTT industry. So I really want to thank you for being on the podcast with me and explaining your research more to our listeners. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Thanks, Maurice. It was a wonderful opportunity coming here and sharing my insights with our listeners. Counterpoint Research has two reports on music streaming, one on the global level and another on the regional level. You can come on counterpointresearch.com and have a look at it.
Great. I want to give again a special thanks to all our listeners. Please stay safe and healthy. And if you missed our previous podcast, you can catch up on Spotify and Apple Music platforms. Thank you.